I'm Amy Gould, and I'm a systems strategist. Believe it or not, I actually deal with tech all the time, but today tech appeared to want to teach me a lesson. So I would absolutely love to hear from you all. Where are you from, and what is your business? If you could drop that in the chat really quick, I'll go on with doing a quick introduction about myself, and we can get this show on the road. So I am going to talk about the 5 essential parts of a client experience that wows, and a little bit about me. I always joke that I'm a habitual tech collector. When I actually started my business, I was a VA, and that was in 2020 when my HR position was eliminated. And I was like, I don't know how to look for a job during a pandemic when no one's doing in-person interviews. This VA course popped up, and I said, hey, you know what? I'm really good with administration. Let me do that for now, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do when the pandemic is over. But I really love what I do. And I actually, the very first tool that I implemented in my business was Dubsado, because I remember listening to this webinar on the VA course, and they said, you know, you need a way to take payment, and Dubsado does that. And you need a way to sign contracts, and Dubsado does that. And you need a way to send proposals, and Dubsado does that. And I was like, well, why am I going to pay for all these other tech tools when I can just have the one? So I added Dubsado in my business, and I started working with clients and started seeing that more people really didn't understand how to do automation and systems. And so that's how I ended up where I am today. When I'm not building systems and doing tech and Dubsado, I actually, I love to cook, and I do yoga, and I also am a runner. I like to ride motorcycles, and I live in a small beach community in West Michigan. I need to update this slide. We just adopted 2 kittens. So we now have 5 cats and 2 dogs. And so we have a little bit of a zoo at my house. I see we've got people attending this webinar from all over, and lots of different places. We've got lots of different types of businesses here. Oh, hey, Vicki, you're from Muskegon. You're like right down the road from me. That is so cool. We've got digital marketing, and we got Meg has family in Pentwater. Very cool. Small world. I'm just looking at the different industries we've got represented today. Actually, we've got web design, very cool. AR cosmetic chemist who develops and manufactures hair care products. That's an interesting one I have not heard of yet. And travel, publishing, wedding invitations and stationery, bookkeeper, VA. We got an OBM in here, wedding and brand photographer. Awesome. Financial coach, lots of different businesses represented today. If you wouldn't mind dropping in the chat also, how long or how much experience do you have with Dubsado? Let's say 1 is brand new, 2 is you've worked with it a little bit, 3 is you've got pretty good understanding of Dubsado, and 4 is kind of you feel like you're pretty much an expert in Dubsado. So let's see. We got 1, 4, 3. I got a 2.5. A lot of 3s. Just renewed my 2nd year. 3, 1. Amazing. So we got a lot of different experience levels here. I hope you'll find something. All of you will find something that you can take away from this webinar today. So I've worked with a lot of different clients, and to improve their client experience, 2.7. Kelly, that's awesome. I've worked with a lot of different clients to develop workflows in Dubsado. And what I've seen and discovered is a lot of people leave their client experience up to chance, or they've only really thought about the piece that happens right after somebody books with them. So they're actually missing some pretty big pieces of the client experience. And the other thing that I've discovered is when you ask people what their process is, most of them just kind of hem and haw. They don't have it written down or laid out in a way that they can easily repeat the process over and over again and improve on it. I also find a lot of my clients want to customize the process for each client. And that makes it a lot harder to spot areas to improve. They spend a ton of time revamping things and doing things over and over again. It takes a lot more effort to reinvent the wheel for every client when you want to customize everything that you do. There are ways to add that in there, and I'm going to talk about it. But it basically forces you to do everything yourself because you can't outsource it to other people or automation as easily if it's constantly changing for each person. So when you create a well thought out client experience that is intentional and consistent, you make it so much easier to explain to prospective clients what you do and how they can start working with you. As soon as I did that in my business, I found that I could just rattle it off without even thinking about it and it was a total confidence booster for me on calls because I could say, this is step 1 of working with me. This is step 2. Here's how this works. And because it's all laid out like that, it's really easy to explain to people and you don't have to spend time thinking about what you're going to say on the call. And you also eliminate a lot of mental bandwidth because you don't have to figure out how you're going to do what you're doing. You have a step-by-step process that you follow. And that's one of the things I love about Dubsado workflows is that they kind of lay it right out for you, what the process is that you're supposed to be following. I find that projects are easier to manage. And one of the ways we're going to talk about is Dubsado project statuses, but there's some other things too. You can easily improve your process because you can see where you might possibly need to tweak things and you can easily make small adjustments to change things and improve them for your future clients. Your new clients feel confident about their purchase because they hear from you immediately on purchase. They feel cared for and they feel that you know what you're doing because you're asking for things up front when you're onboarding them and things like that. They also feel like they get more out of your service and hopefully they tell all their friends how awesome you are and that they should work with you too, which who doesn't love referrals, right? And I have a stat here from Forbes magazine. 96% of customers say that customer service is important in their choice of loyalty to brand. So it's definitely something that you want to pay attention to. And so let's dive in and talk about more about how we can create a client experience that wows. And when I'm working with clients, I actually focus on 5 key areas of the client experience, or as I like to call them, the 5 C's. And they are connect, collect, continue, care, and conclude. So here's a quick overview of what each one covers. Connect, make it super easy for potential clients to raise their hand and say they're interested in working with you. Then in part 2, collect, once they've signed up to work with you, collect everything you need to start working with a client and set the expectations right up front. Step 3 is continue the conversation, keep clients updated and engaged throughout the project. Care is step 4, and this is deliver your service in a way that leaves your client feeling cared for. And then 5 is conclude, wrap up your service and say goodbye. And this usually includes saying goodbye, asking for feedback, and following up. Now let's get into each one and we'll talk about specifically what you can do at each stage. And I'll show you how Dubsado can help you to automate those things. All right, so connect. We're going to set the stage for a remarkable experience from the very beginning. And one of the ways that we want to do that is make it easy for potential clients to take the first step to work with you. So this can be filling out an application, booking an appointment to learn more about you and your service, purchasing a service directly from your webpage. And the nice thing is, I know most of you have had Dubsado for a little bit, so you know that those kinds of things can all be set up in Dubsado and easily embedded in a web page. You can copy and paste a link and send that in like a text message or an email or social media conversation, and somebody can quickly book an appointment or fill out your application. And it's completely customizable based on your business, which I love because, you know, different people, different businesses have different needs. So for instance, I worked with a home stager. They had a customized quote form on their website that some people could fill out and they could collect all the information to prepare a quote and send it right over to the client. Sometimes they had to do other steps like have a consultation or take a look at the house, but it definitely streamlined that process for them. Wedding photographers, usually it's more of a like, hey, here's my wedding date. Are you available that date? Want to get that information right up front and decide if it's possible to work with the client. And so I usually suggest collecting information that will help you do a few things depending on your next step in the process. And you want to get information that lets you get to know them better or their project or their needs. Obviously, in the case of a wedding photographer, we're getting those dates. Find out the service that they're interested in. If you have more than one service, obviously, you want to know before you get too far what they're interested in, and then determine their timeline for various industries that can be, you know, home staging. They want to book next week. Well, if you're already booked next week, probably not a good fit to work with you. And you also want to find out how they found out about you so that you can double down on your marketing efforts in those areas. So those are the things I like to include in those lead captures. But obviously, you would pick different things based on your industry and what you need to know to get started working with somebody. But what I love about those lead capture forms, especially with booking appointments or things like that, you can get to know your prospective client better before you get on the call with them. And, you know, maybe that looks like going and looking at their website or their social media or different things. It can really help you kind of get to know people ahead of when you get on a call with them or when they take the next step to work with you. And another thing that I left out was public proposals. So you can obviously make it really easy for someone to work with you by putting a public proposal on your website. They can fill it out, select items, and buy your service right from the web page. And it really depends on your industry if that's a good fit for you or not. But I do love that option too. So then what happens if somebody does fill out your form on your website, for instance? What is the next step that you would do? So obviously, in the case of our wedding photographer, they're filling out the form with their wedding information. You want to review the form and decide if they're a good fit to work with you, for instance. I love to put workflow tasks in to-dos, sorry. I always have task in my head, but it's a to-do. I love doing workflow to-do steps to remind me to do those things or my clients to do those things. follow up with the client. And that being said, too, I usually have an immediate response that goes out from when a form is filled out on a website. I don't know about y'all, but when I fill out contact forms on websites, I'm convinced that they are ejecting my information into hyperspace, because 90% of the time I hear nothing back and I have no idea where that information went. So I love to put an immediate response that says, hey, thank you for your inquiry. We'll be in touch soon, or whatever the next thing is that you're going to do, so that they know that their information didn't just get ejected into hyperspace. And then another thing that I like to do with those responses is tell the prospective client more about your business, what you do, how you do it, etc. And that's a way that you can help them be more informed about the buying decision. I actually heard a podcast recently where they were talking about how sales has changed in recent years. So it used to be that sales was all about the salesperson had the power, and the person on the sales call, for instance, like buying a car, had none of the power. They had none of the information. Well, now, you can look up car information on every make and model that's available. Pretty much before you walk on the lot, you know kind of what you're going to end up paying. You kind of know what the value of your car is. You know what the interest rate is that your bank charges. And you didn't used to have that information. So that has trickled down into all the other sales too. People expect to be informed. And when you include this kind of information in your pre-sale process, you can help them make an informed decision. And it can help you when you get on those discovery calls to have fewer people saying things like, now's not the right time. This is too expensive for me right now. It's not in my budget, or things like that. So this is a great opportunity. You can link to a portfolio of your work. You could send a pricing guide or include a link to a pricing guide, include client testimonials, link to blog posts or videos with more information on your service. For example, a home stager can link to a blog post explaining how home staging can increase the sale price of a home, or that wedding hair and makeup person can link to an article about different hair and makeup styles for weddings, or why hiring a hair and makeup specialist is helpful for your wedding day, something like that. Just some ideas there. So you can also link to a video of yourself talking about who you are, what your business does, and ways that you can help them. You can also include some of your FAQs that you get a lot about your business. You can also send a series of short emails on various aspects or pain points that your clients have. A lot of different things. And the cool part is pretty much everything that I rattled off there is something that can be worked into a Dubsado workflow, built as a form, or just linked to exterior things. Do I have templates or samples of this? I wanted to have that. I'm a little afraid to click off of anything on here today, but I'd be happy to maybe send a link out to this or something. I don't know if the Dubsado team can do something with that. Yeah, actually, Dubsado has tutorials on these workflows, and I'm working on building more of that kind of stuff, but I don't have it built currently. But I know there are tutorials on the workflows. Maybe in the FAQ section at the end, at the question and answer at the set end, we can get into that a little more if there's time. Okay, Let's see. I lost my spot here. Oh, actually, one thing that Dubsado does that I think is underutilized, and a lot of my clients don't seem to know about them, is the project statuses. Um, and these are up at the top of your projects page. They're completely customizable. And what I love about these is you can use workflow actions to automatically move clients to different project statuses. For instance, when a proposal is sent, you can have a workflow action that automatically changes the client's status to proposal sent. So this is a great way to keep track of your leads and where they might be at in the process of starting the process of working with you, or other things like that. It's helpful for remembering to follow up. I know that personally, I find myself getting stressed out about projects that I think I should be working on. And then I check the project status and realize that I'm still waiting for a client to fill out their onboarding form. And so there's nothing that I can really do at that point until they complete that form. So that's personally where I find these project statuses to be helpful. But you can have them change the project status when a form is completed or an appointment is booked or different things like that. And then some of the project statuses that I use the most, I listed them on this slide. So I have like new lead, proposal sent. If someone doesn't fill out a proposal within about 3 days, I usually have it changed to follow up, and I have a workflow to do to also just check in with them. You could also have an email that's sent and automatically follows up with them too. Sometimes it needs a little bit more customization at that point. So you kind of want to pick and choose how to do automation there. But and I forgot, you can do emojis in project statuses, which is kind of fun. It makes them a little more eye-catching. And I just like anything that makes it interesting to look at and makes it easy to understand. And then the job statuses that I use are onboarding, in progress, offboarding, and follow-up. But I've used all kinds of different job statuses. Could be something like for home staging, I had a waiting for D stage or things like that. And then, like I said, I use workflow steps to do a lot of the heavy lifting on keeping things organized in the project statuses. But you can also manually change the project status if it's something that you personally want to change it to, and there's no workflow step that'll do it. And then another way in this connect phase is to have emails that automatically follow up with clients if they haven't completed a proposal or filled out another form. And this can be as simple as, hey, I saw that you haven't completed the proposal that I sent out a few days ago. Do you have any questions about it? And that sounds, like more personal and like you wrote it. But I get a lot of responses back from that email saying, hey, do you have any questions about it? So that's a great way to follow up without you actually having to do it. And then, so once a client has booked with you, you then move on to the collect phase. And during the collect phase, you want to set expectations. And generally for my clients, I create an onboarding guide. And this is sent right away as soon as the contract is signed and the initial payment is made. More on that in a second. If you need to schedule an appointment with a client, now is a great time to book that appointment because they're engaged and really paying attention and doing things for the service that they bought. so that you can use Dubsado workflows to automatically send that scheduler right away to a client and let them choose a date and time that works for them. And the best part is I love being able to set the availability in the scheduler and tie it to my Google Calendar. You can also tie it to Outlook or Apple, and that helps you not accidentally double book appointments. Unless you don't put your appointments in your calendar or you forget to put travel time around the beginning and end of the appointment. So yeah, if you're using connected calendars, those are my 2 tips for that, is to make sure to put your appointments on your calendar and add travel time so you don't end up driving home from the dentist when you're supposed to be on a call with someone. And then a lot of people like to send client gifts or handwritten cards after clients book. If this is you, I recommend including a to-do in your workflow that reminds you to do this and gives you the information to easily do it, like their name, address, phone number, whatever you need to do to make that step happen easily. I also built a Zap that sends all the information and a message to a company called Handwritten, and they send client gift cards or client cards that look like I wrote them, and a nice message that I came up with, and a Starbucks gift card. So that's really cool. There's a lot of other client gifts out there, and I think there are other companies that work with Zapier too. So you can definitely automate that piece of it. Ellie says workflows and automations are a lifesaver for me and my clients as well. It saves so much time, and the scheduler added into the mix. Yeah, I agree 100%. That scheduler saves me a ton of time. I've had a lot of people that said they didn't want to use schedulers because they didn't want to feel cold and impersonal, but playing scheduler ping pong is so annoying, that whole back and forth thing. It's a big time suck. So you're actually respecting people's time more by sending them a scheduler link and saying, hey, here's a link to my schedule. Have a look and pick a time that works for you. You're actually saving your prospective person a lot of time because they're not doing the whole back and forth thing with you. And then I also, like I said, I like to send that client onboarding guide. And in that, I like to include things like the office hours, how to communicate with you, when someone can expect replies back from you, anything that you can do to set the expectations early to avoid frustration. A lot of times I also like to include the steps of the process and what that's going to look like if that's something that's relevant to the service that you're doing. And I usually also include like what's going to happen next in their progress. Can we add photos to the emails in Dubsado? Yes, actually you can add photos. I actually have a step in one of my clients to do that says add in progress photos to the email. So yeah, you can do that. Let's see. I'm just checking my notes here. I think I caught everything. Oh, and then the other thing that you can do in the client onboarding guide that I love to do is add the client portal guide information. And there's actually a template in Dubsado that you can use to add, or that you can add with one click to your forms and then customize it to create a client portal guide. And then if you want to have that client or onboarding section in there, you could build that in the front of the client portal guide too, which is great. I love it because it gives people kind of a tour of what's in the client portal and how to find things and where everything is. So if you are using the client portal, I highly recommend sending that client portal guide. And then you also once someone is onboarded, this is the part that I find people don't really think about as much. You want to continue the conversation with your clients. So you want to create touch points along the way that keep them informed and let them know that they're top of mind, or update them on the status of their project. You could do things like send in progress photos or videos of their project as it's being created, or send updates as the project moves from one stage to the next, telling them what's been completed and what you're working on next. So a lot of times the way I do this in the workflows is by having a to-do that is in the workflow first, that tells me what I need to do, which would be something like, let's say I have a wedding photographer and they want to send an email. That was kind of a bad example, actually. I have a jewelry designer who, when they have completed their sketches of the jewelry and uploaded them to the client's to the form, actually, then they mark this task complete, and that sends the email letting the client know that they have sketches available to view, and it's actually sending the form so they can view it, and then it follows up with an email asking them to schedule an appointment to go over the sketches. So the way that I use that is the to-do is done first, and it gives them all the information that they need to do to make that happen before they mark that task complete. Then when they mark the task complete, it sends the email. And I love that because it gives the client all the information they need to stay on task with that workflow and know what they need to do. For other industries, you could send messages leading up to their service date that help them. For instance, wedding photographers, you could send information to help people get ready for their wedding. Have their emergency prepared kit ready to go, different things like that. Have their wedding accessories available in the getting ready area so you can take pictures of it, all of those type of things. And that way, like, the client knows that you're thinking about them. There are also, like, I'm trying to think of other ones. I've got notes here. I know home stagers. I had a home stager that had an email that went out the week before, letting them know that you're picking out the accessories for their house, and that you're excited to stage their home, and reminding them to finish the things that need to happen before the home gets staged, things like that. That kind of thing. So, any questions about continue the conversation? I'm trying to think of other examples I have of touch points that people can use throughout that part of the working with clients process. So then care, you want to go above and beyond to deliver your services in style. And that can look like a lot of different things. But ideally, you want to present all of your deliverables in one place. One of the ways I love to do this in Dubsado is to create a questionnaire, which is not really a questionnaire. It's just showing them everything that you've created. So you could have buttons or links that link to, for instance, social media managers. Maybe you've got assets that are, oh, I see a question over here. So I'll get to that question in just a second, Kate. If you're a social media manager, maybe you've got some assets, images, captions, those kinds of things. You can have links to those in the questionnaire, or a link to a gallery for a photographer, for instance. And basically, you want to make it easy for clients to find everything in one place. It could look like giving them a step-by-step list to use your deliverable, or what the next steps are in your process, things like that. I know I have a client who has an email that goes out right after a client's wedding and says, hey, we're busy working on editing your photos. We'll be in touch shortly with your sneak peek photo and all of your edited photos so we can go through and order your album. Another thing you could do is create recorded instructions and link to those in your delivery questionnaire. And then you could also use Dubsado to send a scheduler to book an appointment with clients to do the delivery in person over a Zoom call or a Google Meet, or something like that. So, okay, I got a couple questions here. What systems do you recommend for managing stored documents generated during the project? Documents, images, etc., that aren't stored in Dubsado. That's a great question, Angela. It kind of depends on what it is that you are storing. For instance, like I know some people store or have files on Canva that they link to. I use personally a lot of Google document type stuff, or Google folders and Google spreadsheets and things like that. So those are all linkable, easy to share, and that kind of thing. I know people also use, what is it? I can't think of the name of it, but there is like a file storage platform to Dropbox. Thank you, Samantha. You saved me. Yeah, Dropbox is great. I know that photographers also have a number of things, platforms that they work with to save photos and that kind of stuff. Kate says HubDoc. That's also fabulous. And I've got Lily says Trello, which I've never saved documents in Trello. I know I've linked to documents in ClickUp, which is what I use quite a bit, but and we've got PickTime. Yeah, project management tool is an amazing tool to have in your toolbox, Ellie. I totally agree with that. Asana, Trello. I'm currently using ClickUp. I forced myself to not do any more project management tools because I had a collection of them going at one point. Yeah, we've got Jamila has Dropbox and Google Documents. Those are all some great suggestions there. And the cool part is you can also, what I like to do with that is use a project mapped smart field and put it in under the project or the client, depending on how you're using it. And then you can put the link into that smart field. And the nice thing is you can then put the link or put the smart field in your form and copy the smart field and put it in as a link. So that's a really cool way to do that. I actually have a blog post about it on my blog. I know I didn't do a great job of explaining it there, but very helpful way to do that. And that way you don't have to copy paste it all the time for each client. Video overviews for digital deliverables are a nice touch too. Yeah, definitely a video walkthrough of digital deliverables is fabulous. I love that idea. I'm definitely adding that into my presentation, Ellie. Let's see. The continue combo is important. I still find it hard to automate. Do you usually use to-dos for it? So I've used to-dos for things like that can't be automated based on when an appointment was scheduled, when a form was completed, when the project start date or end date is. So if I can't automate it that way, and it's something that's based more on the client actually having to complete something, then I will use a to-do with an email behind it so that the client gets reminded to do the thing that they need to do before the email goes out, so their client doesn't get an email that's missing some important information or things. So, um, Kate, I hope that answered your question on how I use those. And then let's see. I don't want to make sure we don't run out of time. I think we covered everything under care. So we can move on to the conclude. So you want to leave on a high note, tie everything up in a bow, and that would be conclude. So, and basically you want to say thank you, ask for feedback, and make sure to stay in touch and don't just disappear off the face of the earth. So, I always automate a thank you email in the offboarding workflow for clients, thanking them for working with me and reminding them that they can reach out if they have questions. This is an awesome time to send your feedback questionnaire or ask for a Google review. Absolutely love automating this because I don't know about y'all, but I always feel like kind of yucky asking for reviews. I just don't love it. But it's so fabulous to get those testimonials and reviews. And so like you can use Dubsado questionnaires for this. Personally, I do like to use Google Forms or Airtable or ClickUp Forms or something like that because it collects all the answers in one place, like a spreadsheet, instead of having to search through each client's record to find, oh, I remember somebody said this really awesome thing about my business and how I worked with them and which client was it, and digging through it and trying to find it. So as much as I love Dubsado, in this case, I would probably either link to like a Google review or use a form from something like Airtable or ClickUp or Google Spreadsheets, Google Forms, excuse me, anything like that, that would allow someone to fill it out and put it in a spreadsheet for you to have. And then also, if you were given access to somebody's systems, this is a fantastic time to remind them as you conclude work with them to remove your access to systems, things like Google Docs, Canva, LastPass, their website. If it's not something that you can do on your end. So I still have clients who did not remove me from their Dropbox, and even though I've emailed them a couple times, and I still have access to Dropbox. So I think it's a great thing to just remind people to remove your access. And then I like to set up at least one or more follow-up emails with clients, generally a week or two after they finish working with this client, a month to 6 weeks later, and another one further out than that. And it kind of depends on the service. I know I've had several people in the wedding industry that send emails just under a year after working with someone, wishing them a happy anniversary and letting them know about additional services that they offer, photography or wedding service, hair and makeup, that kind of thing, services that they offer. And for photographers, also letting them know when their gallery will expire so they can download prints and order more photos and things like that. But I mean, you could just send an email checking in with people, seeing how they're doing since you've worked with them and how they liked whatever it was that you did for them. Sometimes that's just a great way to stay on someone's radar, and you never know when someone might be like, oh, I'm glad you messaged me. I really need your help with blah, blah, blah. So that is a great way to just stay in touch and keep that sort of human connection, but you're still using your automation to do that. So, and then I forgot to mention this early on in my presentation, got a little flustered with all the tech stuff. I did create a free resource to help you take the information from this webinar and map out your own client experience that wows, and it's completely free. It is at amysgould.com/client-experience. You can download that there. And so I don't know if anybody has any more questions. I'm going to catch up on the chat here. I see somebody's a systems twin. Oh yeah, we got ClickUp, top 3 systems, ClickUp, Dubsado, and Canva. I love Google too. Ellie, I think you might be a system twin with me. Samantha asked if Dubsado will send emails to archived people. It will not send emails to archived people, and my workaround with that is to move someone to a status like offboarding or something like that, and then let those additional workflow steps like emails send, and then have it auto archive once all of the workflow steps have run. So that's what I've done with clients on that. Samantha. Oh yeah, Vanessa said she also uses Google Forms to get client feedback and testimonials. Vanessa also uses ClickUp, Dubsado, and Google. So we got several people that like that. Oh, and then let's see. Any other questions from anybody? Oh, yeah, I'll drop the link in the chat. Good point. 1 second here. I'll add that to the chat. Last chance for questions. And I'm sorry if I mess up your name, Servola. Dubsado does, I'm not sure if you're asking if you can upload PDFs and send them as a form, because that you can do that. Okay, yeah, you can upload PDFs in the form section and send those as a PDF. Like a contract from the system. You mean after it's signed? Because there is an automatic email that goes out from the system that says, or that gives them the option of downloading a PDF. So I'm not sure if that's what you're asking. Yeah, once they sign the contract, there's a canned email in the system and an automatic, I guess I'd say, workflow action that happens. That actually sends an email saying, here's a copy of your signed contract. I don't think it doesn't send it if you have to countersign it. The counter signature is not on it. But you could add a workflow step to, good question. I need to think on that one. But feel free to hit me up on Instagram. I have my contact information at the end, and I'll think if I can come up with a better idea on sending it with the counter signature. So in conclusion, remember the 5 C's of a customer experience that wows: connect, ensure seamless connectivity by providing easy ways for clients to reach out and promptly respond to their inquiries or follow-ups, gather all the necessary information and resources from clients while they are actively engaged, streamlining the process and minimizing delays, continue the conversation, maintain open lines of communication, and provide regular updates to keep clients informed and involved in the project's process or progress. Care, deliver your services with a strong sense of attentiveness and empathy, ensuring that clients feel well supported and valued throughout their experience with you. Conclude, express gratitude to clients for choosing your services, invite their feedback to improve future interactions, and maintain follow-up communication to find out how happy they are with your services and address any further needs. And then remember that creating a client experience that wows helps you to consistently create raving fans who tell their friends about your business and help to promote your business. Some businesses that I know operate entirely on referrals, and I'm hoping someday that'll be me. Thank you all so much for hanging with me through all the technical difficulties. I really enjoyed sharing what I've learned as a systems strategist with you all today. Feel free to reach out to me if you liked what you saw, you had any questions that I didn't answer for you. My contact information is here. You can always find me at amysgould.com. And I'm on Instagram at amysgould_. So I'm always happy to respond to DMs and messages on Instagram or Facebook. So that's all I have for today. And I'll leave this slide up if you want to grab that free workbook that I put together on client experiences. You're welcome. Thank you all so much for being here, and look forward to connecting with you all online. You're welcome. You're welcome, Kate.